Hello Earth, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mars and today we're going to talk about the Diviners. I read this book series by a recommendation from BookTube. I decided that I was going to pick all of them up and read them, and here are my thoughts. Book 1 follows Evie O'Neill. She is from Ohio and she moves to New York after getting into some trouble to live with her uncle as punishment, which would not be a punishment to me, is not really a punishment to Evie, but here we are. Mom and Dad are like, you're punished, you're going to New York City. Okay. Sounds like a fun time. So she goes to live with her uncle in New York City, and her uncle owns, they call it the Museum of the Creepy Crawlies, but it's really like an occult museum, and he's like obsessed with the occult. And so she goes and moves with him. He gets called into a murder case for Naughty John, and it's basically following how Evie and Will are going to solve these murder cases. Because Evie has a special power. She is a diviner, and she basically can hold an object and read the history of the object and learn things about people. And so that's basically book 1. When I read book 1, within the first chapter, I was like, this is gonna be some bullshit, in a good way, because in book 1, there's a group of people in New York, and it starts off with them playing with a Ouija board, and they get into contact with Naughty John, who is the pinnacle killer in the story, and he's like, I'm gonna show you guys evil and terror, and they're like, I'm out, and they don't disconnect. They don't say goodbye. They don't disconnect. They're just like, I'm out. So I read that and was like, this is going to be some bullshit. Y'all are going to get murdered. And what happened? People got murdered. Jericho in the first book was extremely sus. I didn't like Jericho throughout the entire series, to be quite honest. I didn't care for his storyline. It just is what it is. They tried to do a love triangle between Evie, Sam, and Jericho, and I do not ship Evie and Jericho at all. I don't think they fit together. I don't think they work. And then later in the series, Jericho like insta falls in love with someone, and I'm like, what? And yeah. Anyways, Sam and Evie meet for the first time in the train station, and Evie basically gets pickpocketed by Sam, and then he later shows up at the museum to help out on the murders and things like that. And because Evie like hunts him down and like steals something of his and is like, if you want this back, you'll show up at this museum with my $20, because Sam steals $20. One thing that I love is the pettiness of Evie, because all the way through book 4, this girl is like, you owe me $20. I am that level of petty. I loved that went throughout the entire series. Book 2 follows still Evie, but then we're introduced more to Henry and to Ling, and they are dreamwalkers, and book 2 really follows a sleeping sickness that is hitting New York. And the sleeping sickness, it's like you fall asleep and you get these boils and ulcers on your skin, and then you never wake up. You just die after a few days, I think it is. The story in this book, okay, Lair of Dreams, was so fucking sad. It was so sad. We're introduced to a character in the dream world called May, and it really seems like she is another dream walker, and then it turns out she's not. She's a spirit, and she's kind of the cause of the entire sleeping sickness. And her story just is so sad. Her story is like heart-wrenching, but I don't want to give too much away on it, so I won't. Book 3 is Before the Devil Breaks You, and book 3 deals with ghosts who feel like they have been forgotten, and they are primarily seen out at this mental hospital on like an island off of like the coast of New York or like something like that. I know they have to take a boat to get to it. Book 3 broke my heart because there's a character death in book 3 that I didn't see coming. I didn't expect to see. Well, it just blindsided me and hit me, and I was devastated for a bit. And then the last book is The King of Crows. The King of Crows is the man in the steam pipe hat, and he is basically like the villain in all of these books. He is the cause of all of like the stuff that has happened previously. He's controlling the ghosts. He is the big evil villain, okay? And so the stories all tie together, and it's leading up to The King of Crows. In The King of Crows, basically Isaiah is he can see the future, and I don't remember how exactly it happens, but he has a vision of this girl named Sarah Beth Olson, and Sarah Beth is like, you need to come to Bountiful, Nebraska. I know how to stop the King of Crows. I know what we can do. We can stop the King of Crows together, but you have to come to Bountiful. So in book 4, everyone gets split up. It's basically, they split the party, and I kind of don't love when that happens. I don't love when authors decide to split everybody up, but everybody gets split up, and then they basically are headed to Bountiful, Nebraska to meet up together. But at one point they all have the same dream of the character death in book 3, who tells them to come to that town in Kansas that I was like, is that a gateway to hell in Kansas? So they go there, they meet in Kansas, and then they head up to Bountiful, Nebraska. And then it turns out that Sarah Beth Olson may not be who she has claimed to be. And then they end up going to Death Valley, I think it is. Because Jake Marlowe there's kind of two evils. There's the King of Crows, and there's Jake Marlowe. And Jake Marlowe is an inventor in the real world. He has built this machine that opens a portal between the spirit world and our world, and he's listening to the King of Crows, but he's trying to capture the King of Crows, and it's a whole thing. And so he needs diviners to keep the portal open. So they go to Death Valley, and they basically are going to try to like shut down this machine. So they basically have to, like, Jake Marlowe like captures them, and at one point Memphis makes a deal with the King of Crows, and it basically turns Memphis crazy. There's a character death in The King of Crows as well. I'm gonna put spoiler warning, obviously, because if you've never read these, I am kind of leading to some spoilers, but like I don't want to name character deaths or anything like that. And so in book 4, Memphis makes a deal with the King of Crows, and then they all get captured because Memphis is like crazy, and they end up in Death Valley. They get hooked up to this machine. They make a plan that when they're in the machine, they're going to try to like destroy the machine. And they meet with the King of Crows, and it was just a letdown, okay? Because when they are in the spirit world and they meet the King of Crows, all of these books are leading up to this point where the diviners are going to meet the King of Crows, and the King of Crows is building this ghost army and like building this big ghost army. And so in my mind, I'm thinking all right, we're gonna have like a showdown. Like they're gonna go to the spirit world and there's gonna be this huge battle and it's gonna be epic. I'm thinking like Lord of the Rings, like orc versus the kingdom kind of thing. And it was not. You don't get it. Don't get your hopes up to get it, because you're not. You don't get a cool battle in this book. You don't. And one of the characters who did die is in the spirit world, and they are like, I'm not staying here. I'm leaving. I don't want to, like, no, my life isn't done yet. I still have so much more to do. So they walk up to the King of Crows and they're like, I'm leaving. And the King of Crows is like, well, if you want to leave, you have to make a deal. And this character remembers Sarah Beth, who was like, oh, if you look into the King of Crows, you can figure out, like, if you look past what he wants you to see, you can see what the King of Crows truly is. So this character looks at the King of Crows and determines what the King of Crows really is, and that is how the King of Crows is defeated. Now, I'm not going to tell you what it is or what happens. It was just a letdown, because I was really expecting this amazing battle between the spirits and the diviners. It wasn't for me. Book 4. But the rest of the series is fantastic. 1 through 3, I 100% recommend. Book 4, I would just recommend so you know how it ends. If you don't really want to know how it ends, don't read book 4. Have you read The Diviners? What do you think of the series? Is this something you would be interested in reading? I hope that you guys enjoyed this little rant thing on this book series. It holds a place near and dear to my heart. The love that I feel for these characters is amazing. I don't reread books at all. I read it, and then I feel like if I were to read it again, it doesn't hold my attention because I already know what's going to happen. But I feel like this is one that I could reread. Maybe not book 4, but 1 through 3, I feel like I could reread. They were so good, and I really did enjoy them. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you so much for spending some time with me, and I'll see you in the next one.